The last traces of summer heat still clung to the air when I pulled into the driveway that Thursday evening. It was the kind of thick, stubborn warmth that made a man crave nothing more than a cold drink. On the porch, in the soft buzz of cicadas in the trees, my Jeep sat right where I had parked it that morning, locked behind the gate with a heavy-duty chain, just as I always left it. Theft wasn't something I ever worried about. Not here, not in this neighborhood. But that Jeep wasn't just another vehicle. It carried a story, a purpose, a legacy much bigger than me. Once, it had belonged to a special law enforcement unit. It bore no obvious markings, but there were details, small, deliberate modifications, that only someone with the right eye would ever notice. After it came into my hands, I'd rebuilt it, cared for it, and treated it with the respect owed to the men and women who'd once used it to protect and serve. To me, it wasn't a machine. It was a symbol of duty, sacrifice, and the unseen battles fought so people could sleep safely at night. But none of that meant anything to my neighbor, Karen. Drop your location in the comments. Let's see how far this story reaches around the world. Karen wasn't just another busybody. She was the self-declared queen of the HOA, wielding her clipboard like a general wielded a saber. She thrived on conflict, enforcing rules that seemed to change on her whim. My property wasn't part of the HOA. I'd made sure of that when I bought it, but that never stopped her from stomping over with pastel-colored violation notices, lecturing me about mailbox colors or lawn schedules. That night, though, I knew something was wrong the second I stepped out of my truck. The air was too quiet. My gate was ajar, and when I turned the corner, my stomach dropped. The lock, my heavy, weatherproof, supposedly unbreakable lock, was gone. In its place were twisted shards of metal, and the chain dangled uselessly. The Jeep was missing. For a split second, I thought it had been stolen. My heart thundered in my chest. Then, right on cue, I heard Karen's voice carrying across the cul-de-sac. She wasn't hiding it. She was proud. I told them I had to handle it myself. That eyesore was killing property values. If the city won't tow it, I will. Can't let junk clutter the neighborhood. I stood there, frozen, anger and disbelief boiling inside me. She had cut my lock, trespassed on my land, and had my Jeep hauled away. That was Karen. She always believed the rules bent. For her, she strutted around like the self-appointed sheriff of the block, untouchable, unquestionable, beyond consequence. But this time, she had no clue what she had stepped into. I pulled out a number I hadn't dialed in years, one I'd been given back when the Jeep first came into my possession. It wasn't a typical contact. It belonged to a liaison named Daniels, a man who still monitored certain vehicles that had once served in police task forces. The Jeep wasn't just some rugged old relic. Hidden within its frame was sensitive equipment, tech that couldn't simply vanish into some impound lot. Daniels answered before the first ring ended. His voice was calm and deliberate, the voice of a man who'd spent a lifetime wearing a badge. "Where is it?" he asked after I explained the situation. I told him everything about Karen, the lock, the tow truck. He didn't hesitate. "Stay put. Don't go near her. We'll take care of it." Less than an hour later, two unmarked sedans rolled into the cul-de-sac. Plainclothes men stepped out, but their posture carried the unmistakable weight of authority. They didn't come to my door. They crossed the street directly to Karen's porch, where she sat sipping wine, basking in her imagined triumph. From where I stood, I watched her complexion pale as they flashed their badges. Her confident pose faltered, arms folded, then unfolded. Her voice rose, sharp and defensive, gestures slicing the air as she pointed toward my property. I couldn't catch every word, but it was clear. She had no idea the depth of her mistake. What she'd done wasn't just harassment. It was trespassing, property damage, and tampering with government equipment. The tow company was contacted. The Jeep tracked down, and within hours, it was back in my driveway. Karen stood speechless in the street as they unloaded it, sputtering about community rules and neighborhood standards. The officers didn't argue. They read her rights. One by one, neighbors emerged from their homes, silent witnesses as the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA was led away in handcuffs on the very street she'd once ruled. The sight seared itself into my memory. Karen, red-faced and trembling, disappearing into the back of a squad car as whispers rippled through the crowd. Later that night, After the paperwork was signed and the statements taken, I sat with Daniels on my porch. He told me something I've never forgotten. People like her think they're maintaining order, he said. But order without respect isn't order, it's control. And there's a difference. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Without Karen looming over everyone's shoulders, the neighborhood started to breathe again. Kids played basketball in their driveways without anyone barking about noise violations. Neighbors planted gardens bursting with color, not just the HOA-approved shades. It was as if the whole street had been released from a long, suffocating grip. Karen, meanwhile, faced the consequences of her choices. Cutting that lock, towing that Jeep, those weren't petty infractions. They were crimes. And this time, not even her self-appointed title of HOA president could shield her. For me, the whole ordeal taught a deeper lesson. We choose to live in neighborhoods for connection, for safety, for a sense of belonging. But when one person decides their authority outweighs everyone else's dignity, it corrodes that foundation. A neighborhood isn't defined by what's written in a rulebook. It's built on respect, trust, and how we treat one another. Now, every time I see that Jeep parked steady and unmoving in my driveway, I'm reminded of that truth. Not every battle is fought with shouting matches or passive-aggressive notes taped to doors. Sometimes it's about standing firm, knowing when to reach out to the right people, and letting justice speak louder than vengeance ever could. In the end, it was never about embarrassing Karen or even reclaiming what was mine. It was about restoring balance, proving that no matter how loud, overbearing, or controlling someone tries to be, accountability always finds them in the end. The cicadas still sing at dusk, and I still sip iced tea on my porch. But now, there's a peace in the air that wasn't there before, a peace earned, a lesson learned. Because in the end, respect isn't just a courtesy. It's the cornerstone of any community worth calling home. Did you enjoy the video? Then show your support with a like. Share your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe to become part of this journey.